Okay, today we're going to be talking about the time when you come outside getting ready to go somewhere in your Mercedes C250 or mostly C classes and the car doesn't crank. The problem with that is if you see this right here, take your key from the ignition. 9 times out of 10, that's because your ESL has went bad. The ESL is the electronic steering lock in your car. Um, if your car, luckily like mine, has went bad in the unlock position, then you can still crank your car and drive it. I'm gonna show you how in a minute. Um, Beyond that, you can drive it, but I wouldn't recommend driving it for long periods of time. I mean, if possible, crank it, drive it to the Mercedes shop because unfortunately, they are the only people in the U.S. that are going to be able to fix it. And it costs, the part is like almost $600. They'll charge you maybe $1,500 to fix it. I done did research on it. They do have things, um, the ESL modulators that they use to override the system, but your steering lock will never lock again. Most of those places, they need you to remove your ignition switch and send them your key, and they'll program the ESL modulator emulator to your vehicle. And with that, you would have to come back, reinstall your ignition, and install the emulator in order to get your car to actually work. In my experience of looking, I think it's cheaper than going to Mercedes. The only thing with Mercedes, you're gonna get the ESL lock that's designed for your car to lock your steering wheel when you stop your car or whatever. But in most C classes, this is a thing that happens a lot. So an emulator is a cheaper route. You just have to go through. They have places where you send them the stuff. They'll get it back to you in 24 hours. Right now, I'm waiting for my appointment at Mercedes since they're so overbooked. So I'm kind of deciding, do I want to pay the $1,500 or maybe the $500 emulator way in order to be able to get my car up and running the correct way. Because the way that I'm gonna show you is it's a way to crank your car and get it moving where you can drive it. But at the same time, like me, because of Mercedes being booked, I had to crank my car like this in order to go to work. And then when I get to work, I will have to re-crank my car like this in order to leave and come back home. I've been driving it like that for maybe a week, just going back and forth to work. So it's up to you, like I said. But this is the informational video on how to get it crunk enough so where you can get where you're going and then crank it to get back home, or crank it to get from where you're going to the Mercedes shop in order to get it fixed. Because the ESL lock, they won't sell to other dealers, like little shops. They're not going to be able to get it, and if they are, they won't be able to program it. So that's that. Let's get into the video. Okay, the first thing you want to do is go under here, release the hood latch. Don't mind the lights under there. Just be careful. Once you do that, you want to go under the hood. Open the hood. Come over here to the driver's side fuse box. Take that off. And this 15 fuse right here is usually a 7.5. But in this case, I popped the 7.5, so I put a 15 in because I haven't been to the store yet. So you just want to pull that out. Once you pull that out, you're going to come back into the car, grab your car keys, and you want to turn your car all the way to the right, like you're going to crank it. Then you want to come back out of the car, replace the fuse, and you want to hit this switch right here when you're replacing the fuse. That's going to start the car. So if you hear any sounds, that will start the car. And there you have it. The car is started. Car has been started. And by the way, the relay that I touched earlier, this is your starter relay. I just took the cover off, and if you use the side pins, you can push to start the car. If not, then you can use a wire to start the car. Just take this out, take that out, and then you will position the wire one here, and then go to the top one up here. It's kind of hard to do with one hand holding the camera, but I'll try to get it for you guys. Okay, you place one on the bottom, and then the other one in the top slot. So it'll be like that. So when you replace the fuse, the fuse up here, when you replace that, make sure you have this like that, and it'll crank your car like that. If it don't crank on the first try, just pull one out and put it back into the top, and with the fuse pulled out, and just keep doing it until it actually cranks. But it should crank once you pull this out, turn your key ignition, and then replace this with those wires right there connected like that. You want to have one wire in the bottom and then one wire at the top, and that'll crank your car. The same way that I did with the starter relay. If those of you that don't want to really take the cover off of your starter relay, I think it's easier that way, because all you have to do is push the sides in. But if you don't want to take the cover off and you don't want to mess up your starter relay, then you can pull out your starter relay and just place that right there in its place, and it'll start your car the same way as it did with the starter relay out. Thanks.